Okay, good morning and welcome back to the Living Marriage. We're doing chapter 2 over here. It's called The Magnitude of Shalom. It's right after the previous chapter, the first chapter, which talked about why we get married. And he explained the reason we get married is for the unity of marriage. He wasn't talking about in a physical sense. He's talking about that we should access our completion. We're only half complete. A man needs a woman and a woman needs a man. Together, through that zivug, they are a complete person, unified. I don't know if he means, I don't know, I think he means more in a spiritual sense or in terms of your shlemus as a person, if that's meaningful to you, that you have to be a complete person. Usually it means your midos and your character traits. Maybe on a basic level, he just means you feel more fulfillment in life, which is true. You feel more fulfilled when you're married with a woman than not. Here he talks about peace, getting along, shalom bias, really, getting along, a couple getting along. I'm interested. It's interesting that he put it over here because, tell you the truth, it really doesn't. This chapter really doesn't focus on what this book is supposed to be focusing on, marital intimacy. It's talking about shalom bias in general. Anyone who's married knows that when you talk about shalom bias, of course, we're also talking you have to get along in the bedroom, and that's maybe the most important thing. And he talks about that. That definitely a marriage without shalom in the bedroom, I mean, that's the worst of marriages. But shalom really is a word that extends to the entire relationship of the man and wife, of the man and woman, the husband and wife. They always have to be in a state of shalom and not fighting. He brings over here in the beginning a Gemara in Masechas Shabbos, goes from the Rambam, who explains the Gemara that if you have a decision, you only have enough money for Neiros Chanukah and Neiros Shabbos. Even though Neiros Chanukah only applies once a year, and Shabbos is every week, you use the money to buy Shabbos because Ner Shabbos brings Shalom bias. And the Rambam explains, Shenemar the whole purpose of the Torah, the entire purpose of the Torah was meant to make peace in the world. He says that's the whole point of the Torah, right? He says, for example, the name Derech Hebron is the path that leads to Hebron. Where does the path of the Torah lead? What's the path of the Torah? To Shalom. This is because Shalom is the final goal of the creation. The entire Torah was given in order to lead us to one final point, to be of peace and to be in harmony. Not just everyone with other people, but especially you and your spouse should be in a state of peace. God's name, Gemara says, by a sota, right? You erase Hashem's name in order to make Shalom between a man and a wife, to prove that the woman didn't commit adultery. So if you erase Hashem's name, which is one of the biggest averos in the world, just to make peace, Hashem shows it's the most important thing in the world. And he even says, he brings examples from the Gemara that you can even lie for Shalom. Hashem lied by Avram Avinu, right? He told him that Sarah said that she was old, they couldn't have children, even though Sarah herself said that Avram was old. Hashem lied himself to bring Shalom bias between Sarah and Abraham. So he ends off the chapter. It's a short chapter. So why do we get married? To find Shalom. So why do we get married? Now the answer should be completely obvious, and it can be described in two different ways. On one hand, we get married in order to transcend to a higher state of creation, which is called complete Adam. And at the same time, could describe this process the way in which we achieve Shalom. This is because true Shalom is a completion that is achieved as all the parts of the greater whole unify in harmony with one another. Once we know an individual is merely part of a complete Adam, it follows that the only way such a person can attain true Shalom is by finding their bashert, their spouse, and begin ascending the ladder of completion. One who has this perspective will enter into a marriage with happiness and appreciation and desire to live together in harmony with his life partner. He will embrace the recognition that his wife is a part of himself, the bones of his bones and the flesh of his flesh. He will thank Hashem with all of his heart for the special gift that he has received. The tradition we have received from all of our teachers is that one of the primary foundations of Shalom Bayis rests on the perfection of the couple's intimate relationship. And as we will soon learn, this is the way the couple's unification finds its fullest expression. So he does tie it back at the end over here. He says that maybe foundation of Shalom Bayis is an intimacy, an intimate relationship. My comment on this chapter are very short. I didn't find anything very interesting about this chapter. He basically glorifies Shalom, which is very important. If you're listening to my Shulchan Aruch Yomi Shir, I just gave you an idea of how important Shalom is. Shalom is not necessarily just between a man and his wife; it's about all people. Even Jews and non-Jews should have Shalom. Darkei Shalom, the Gemara talks about, you should make peace among non-Jews and Jews. Peace is an important thing because, as I mentioned in the Shir, and Shulchan Aruch Yomi, the Ian to lean on, that peace is so important because if you're in a state of fighting with other people, whether it be, family members, spouse, parents, siblings, children, neighbors, or even people living together in the same community, when you're fighting with other people, it completely ruins your life, right? You're in a state of anger at the other people. You're always angry. How can I get back at the other person? How could he do this to me? It takes over your heart, and it completely puts you in Gehenna, right? Anyone, the Gemara says in Adarim that someone who's koes, kol mine Gehenna sholten, he's completely in Gehenna over there. People are always in fights with other people. It's a terrible thing. It overtakes your life. Anything good you can't appreciate because you're always consumes your mind. How can I get back at that person? So shalom is a terrible anger, which is usually bred from sinna and kinna, jealousy and hatred of other people, which are the opposites of shalom. Usually distract you and take you away from the point of life, which is to enjoy the world, and you can't enjoy anything when you're in a state of fighting or bickering with other people, and certainly with your spouse. Now, he says the reason he writes about this in his book, which talks about intimacy, and that's the whole point of this book. The only point I would like to add about this, about shalom in the bedroom, which he doesn't, maybe I'll talk about in the next chapter, is that I think shalom is the wrong word for the bedroom. Even though shalom bayis is a great thing for the rest of your marriage, I think the bedroom is not enough to live with peace, because there's a difference between peace and love, right? People were peaceful, right, with other people, right? Israel can make a peace treaty with United Arab Emirates, or Jordan, or Egypt. They make peace treaties. Do they love each other? No, they don't love each other. But it's mutually beneficial for them to make peace because they're not fighting anymore. They can help each other in business and things like that. And with security, they can help each other. So it's mutually beneficial to both people. So it makes sense to make peace between them. It's a logical thing to do. It benefits both people. Does it mean they love each other? It doesn't mean they love each other. But the place where you show your love and you create love for a spouse is in the bedroom. Shalom does not suffice. I always say shalom bayis is the bare minimum. Shalom bayis, the rest of your marriage, you're not in the bedroom. To live peacefully, there's so many things that go on in a household on a daily basis, whether it comes to finances, whether it comes to raising children, whether it comes just, spending time out of the bedroom enjoying yourselves, or, just dealing with day-to-day problems or bigger problems. You need to have shalom you need to work it out, because a man's viewpoint is always going to be different than a woman's viewpoint. And he does mention in this chapter that always, people will think I'm 100% right, other person think 100% right. If you both don't learn how to compromise and make peace, you won't have a marriage. Because if you always say I'm right, then you'll never have a marriage. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing to me. Like, it works on me also. For my wife, I get into a fight with my wife, and I try to explain myself. This is why I did it. It made sense. I had to do it. It doesn't help. Even if you're really right, maybe technically, if you have a judges with yeah, he's right according to, but it doesn't make a difference. But once you just forget about it, you just say I'm sorry, right? I'm sorry I made a mistake. Even if you're lying and you just do it, just say it, because that's the way it works. The wife forgets about it. I was angry at my wife for something last night, and then she didn't even start explaining her. She could have explained herself. She said, "My mistake. I'm sorry." And you know what? The anger went away. I felt, that's it. All you have to do is just apologize, say you're sorry. It doesn't hurt. It takes a little bit of your arrogance out of your heart, but that's a good thing, to make peace. Just say you're sorry. It doesn't make you want to have a good relation with this person. Say you're sorry, and that's really the whole idea of tshuva. That's the way tshuva works. When you do an avera, you say you're sorry to Hashem, and you apologize, and that's it. That's all you have to do. You don't have to try to prove to God why you're right. When you're trying to prove to God that you're right, that's really like the egel, and that's why you bring the egel. They always made machshavos, why they're right, why they had to do it. Don't overthink. Don't think too much. You made a mistake. God knows better. Do tshuva. Say you're sorry and act better next time. And that's the way to bring shalom and peace in the household. But when it comes to the bedroom, you need to have love. And I don't know what he's going to say in this book. I haven't read most of the book, but you need to have love and intimacy. It has to be not only a time where both people enjoy, which is very, very important, but also where the people, especially the man, shows love to the wife. Make love to the wife. That's called making love, to show that he loves his wife. which is so important to the woman more than the man, but also a man also wants to feel loved also emotionally. Men have emotions also. They also want to feel loved. And the place for love is in the bedroom, not for shalom, for peace. If you don't have shalom in the bedroom, I mean, nothing to talk about it. If you don't have shalom in the bedroom, your marriage is done. Um, if you, But you need to have a successful marriage, to have a b'diavad marriage, a de facto marriage, or whatever, a marriage that you can stay married technically. You have shalom in the bedroom, you make a peace deal that you won't try to hurt the other person, you won't try to insult the other person, you won't try to do something that physically or emotionally hurtful to the other person. It's a starting point. But if you want to have a good marriage, a successful marriage, you have to have love in the bedroom. We'll talk more about that going forward, both in the physical realm and in the emotional realm. That's all I have to say about this chapter. It's a short chapter. Hope you enjoyed. See you next week.